Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 5 of Gillian's preparation journey. You may hear Lucy walking around, you may
She's
even
right here.
see her, but we'll try to keep on task here. So it has been an interesting couple of weeks since we last talked. We've been trying to resolve some of the house issues that we talked about. But you're not here for that, you're here for her. So how have things been going for the past couple of weeks for you? How's the prep going?
Okay. I've had a couple of really good weeks. So I am currently 10 weeks out, short one day. So yesterday was Friday, was 10 weeks before the competition. The last time we did a video, I was kind of stuck with my body weight. My hormones were a little bit all over the place.
It was frustrating.
Yep, but I stuck to the plan and I wrote it out, didn't change anything about the plan. Ended up dropping some body weight and some fluid, and I am right on track. So my current body weight right now is sitting right at around 138 pounds. So I am losing roughly a pound and a quarter a week.
Which is on target for the plan.
Absolutely on target. And my calories have actually stayed the same.
So how many calories are you eating?
So I have 3 different types of days in terms of amount of calories.
Okay.
So I'll give you the average. I have two high days that are 2,700, some low days that are at 2,200, but my average daily calories is 2,375.
Okay.
And what remains constant than that is my protein. So my protein's 150 grams a day. Fats are 75. Really what is different is the carbohydrate, and the carbohydrate is highest on my leg days.
Okay, so 2,375 calories. I want you to remember that number because we're going to come back to it. But just a reminder for everybody, can you talk about the training split? How many days a week we're working out?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a training split of 5 lifting days. So
Lucy is licking her leg, by the way.
we'll show you Lucy probably in a couple of minutes. So we've got 5 lifting days. There is additionally, on 2 of those days, I have a small amount of higher intensity cardio right now, which is 20 minutes at those 2 days.
Okay.
But the 5 lifting days is broken up in a bodybuilder split. So basically on Mondays is a lower body leg training.
Right.
Tuesday is kind of chest, shoulders, triceps, a push day. Wednesday we do back and glutes. Thursday is an off day, and I do mostly mobility and tons of posing.
Yeah, off doesn't mean off, which I learned that in this prep. So there is no off during this time period.
In working on my routine on Thursdays, Friday is another lower body day. And then Saturday is another upper body day. And in addition to the training sessions, at this point, I am probably doing 30 minutes of posing a day.
Okay.
And probably 20 to 30 minutes of mobility work and stretching per day.
Which I don't do any posing, shocker, but it's apparently not easy. So, I mean, when you are going through the posing practice, that is, I mean, there's a physical exertion that's taking place.
There's quite a bit of energy expenditure, glycogen utilization in that. So there's
I was just going to say glycogen utilization.
There's an additional caloric demand from the posing for sure.
And that's important to factor in. All right, so let's go back to the number 2,375 calories.
85. But who's counting?
Okay,
I'm
are
counting. But I should say that even though that, I don't know if that sounds high to you, low to you, but
it sounds high to me. I was just going to say, for somebody in a prep, that sounds like a lot of calories. I don't know how many people can speak in calories, but it sounds high to me.
But I am getting hungry. So what I could say is this past few weeks is the first time that I'm experiencing real hunger.
Okay.
And that is more equated, again, my calories right now, we have done this whole cut at roughly what we consider to be a 10% deficit below my maintenance levels. And as I get leaner, I am just hungrier. So the other thing that's starting to happen, I'm cold all the time, which you have noticed, the home temperature, there's sort of been an adjustment.
Which we just had that replaced, so that's our new thermostat.
So, I mean, the things that I'm experiencing right now more than anything is primarily being cold most of the time.
Right.
Sleep is a little bit affected, and I am definitely starting to feel hungry, especially late in the afternoon.
Okay, so you're eating over 2,000 calories a day.
Yes.
You're losing a pound or so a week.
Yes.
I think a lot of people that does not compute. So you've received this question before, and I say this with love. I'm not calling her anything, but people ask you, are you a genetic freak? Are you able to do these things because you're some kind of genetic freak? And I think a lot of people just assume, well, of course Gillian can get those results because that's it. She's just naturally gifted. And it brings up the question, nature versus nurture. So I pose to you the question that not everybody, but people have asked, are you a genetic freak? Is that how you can do this?
So I'm first going to address the calories. That does sound like a lot, but again, my lifting and exercise, I am probably exercising 2 to 2.5 hours a day, most days of the week. So
Correct.
we're going to look at that. The other thing to look at is I am highly, highly active. We have a dog that takes long walks. And
we have a dog that doesn't take any
walks.
That is
true. So we routinely get 15,000 plus steps per
Yes.
day as part of our activity, sometimes way in excess of that. So
Mhm.
when you're looking at it, although it sounds like a lot of calories, if you look at my overall activity, it really is not.
Okay.
And the other thing is that, for me, I have not dieted hard.
Right.
I have been away from the stage and contest dieting for over 7 years. So metabolically, I was in a very, very good position, to start a diet, and my body was going to be responsive because I have not starved my body in any way
Okay.
or operated on very low calories for more than 2/3 of a decade.
Almost like a biological reset
But
of your
it is
diet
a lot,
mechanism.
for somebody, for a 138-pound female, yes, that is a lot of calories, and that's a lot of calories. I also have a lot of muscle mass,
Right.
which is very, very active. But
So one thing real quick, she is counting everything. So if there's a little bit of creamer that goes in the coffee,
yes,
that counts.
broccoli stock. Yes.
Exactly. So it's everything that she eats or drinks, every single thing, you count the calories.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people they think I only eat 1,500 calories a day, but they're not counting for what they're drinking. It's the littles that add up. So anyway, back to you.
Am I a genetic freak?
That is the question.
That is the question.
Inquiring minds want to know.
So I do believe there are genetic aspects to what I have been able to accomplish. And the reason that I say that is I see it in my sister. My sister, is ridiculously strong. So my sister, at her powerlifting peak, probably competed at 114 pounds.
Right.
So she's about 2 inches shorter than me, 30 pounds lighter, light skin, light hair, but we have sort of the same body in different sizes.
If you walk behind the sisters, if they're walking in front of you, it's literally the same build.
Yeah, and she did not pursue the same athletic paths that I did. She was a ballerina and I was a gymnast, but my sister at 114 pounds, actually even less than that in the weight class, powerlifting years ago, and that's not what she did. Right. It was a hobby for her, deadlifted 330 pounds, bench press. I could be wrong, but I want to say someplace in the 160s to 180s. And my sister is exceptionally strong, and does not work out for her life the way, I do. And the other thing is, my earliest inspiration in terms of a very, very fit person and somebody to me that was the epitome of physical and mental strength was my grandmother.
She had moxie.
So my father's mother,
yes,
and I used to just stare at her when I was a little kid. I would watch her in the garden. I'd watch the muscles in her legs. So I do have genetic gifts from my father's side of the family.
Right.
Not all necessarily realized. Like in terms of going on to pursue athletics, my dad is a great athlete.
I call him a sportsman.
Yes, none of them went on to pursue athletic careers. So I would say I probably have above average genetic potential, but I don't believe that, in my opinion, it is definitely not anything exceptional. For me, where it's all come is really nurture. So I don't know if you're familiar at all with the 10,000 hour rule.
Well, I am, because we've had this conversation, but they may not be.
Like Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outlier.
Right.
So for me...
What is the 10,000 hour rule? Just
to be good at something and to be an expert and to be great, there's 10,000 hours or more of practice that goes into that.
Right.
So for me, I was put into gymnastics as a toddler. So I had a very, very early start. So it was recognized. So when I say I was around 18 months old when I went into my first gymnastics program, and I was like tumbling around the house, falling down flights of stairs, trying to fly, and I was like, okay, we need to do something with this child. And the other thing is some of it just works out with timing. Like previous to that, gymnastics was somewhat of a big deal at the time in the 70s.
Right.
Because Nadia Comaneci got the first perfect 10 in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So gymnastics had a little bit of a surge at that time.
Right.
So I started gymnastics in terms of nurture as a toddler. So
that's kind of a big deal.
In terms of that being recognized. So I think that absolutely gave me an advantage of doing activity that was weight-bearing activity, type of resistance work from as early as that age.
Right.
And in terms of nurture, I have been fortunate enough to have these incredible role models and people in my life that have believed in me and kept me on the path to continue down that. So, the first one for me was a gymnastics coach when I was 7 years old. And
is this Ralph?
This is Ralph.
Okay.
So I was the very, very best gymnast until a better gymnast came along, who is my friend Kim.
Hi, Kim.
So when Kim came along and joined the gymnastics school, I wasn't the best anymore. And I was very, very jealous. And I was just watching these girls that were better than me. And I just I didn't know what to do. I wanted to do what Kim could do, and I wanted attributes that other of the girls had.
Right.
And Ralph was not even my coach. I don't even know his last name, but he coached the...
It's unfortunate.
Yep.
He had a huge impact. It's
He
unfortunate.
did.
I'd like to give him credit.
His impact came the way of just a couple of conversations. And he came over and he talked to me, and he was like, he used to call me Mighty Mouse, and he wanted to know what was up with my mood. And I told him, I'm like, I want to be the best. And basically he told me you could control two things. You could control your effort and you could control your attitude. And I mean, this sticks with me from early childhood.
Right.
And he's like, if you want to be better, you need to work. You need to stop staring at what everybody is doing. Don't concern yourself. And you need to work, and you need to work harder. And you can get stronger. I didn't have the genetic gifts that I had never seen anybody like Kim before.
Right.
I did not have that. And there were girls on the team that were unbelievably graceful and unbelievably flexible. And I was just sort of a mess. I had big hair that never stayed in a ponytail. I had literally a wedgie all the time. My nose ran like crazy because I was allergic to the chalk. I sneezed, I yawned, I got in trouble for that stuff. But at 7 years old, I learned that work, work, work.
Right.
So work harder and practice the basic elements. It is all built on the basic elements.
Yeah.
So when I say nurture, I was set up in second or third grade to understand those things.
It's so important to get that lesson at that age. And for anybody out there who works with kids, you never know when you're planting seeds for trees you may never see, like Ralph did. I mean, he had a couple of conversations that just may have been inconsequential to him at the time, but look at the impact that it had.
And I think what was amazing was throughout those kind of formative years of my life, I continued to have influences that kept me on this same path.
Right.
So, in high school, I had coaches that believed in me and stuff that made me, the captain of the fitness team, got to design the program, saw to it that I had opportunities to express my physical gifts, sat with me, mentored me, which was exceptional. So in a physical realm, but later in my life, into my 20s, who I consider to be my primary mentor, Pat Manocchia, from
Do you want to, Mr. Featherston, by the way, is the...
In high school.
In high school,
Yes.
that was the teacher.
We'll go back to another story on that.
Yeah, okay.
So, in later on in my 20s...
So Pat Manocchia is who
Yes.
we were talking about before I rudely interrupted.
He was actually my boss and the owner of La Palestra Center for Preventative Medicine in New York City. But what he taught me when I say nurture had less to do, even though it was a gym and a place where you were doing physical activity, is he taught me critical thinking skills, how to think and how to evaluate.
Right.
So, which, as crazy as this sounds, was probably more important than anything I ever learned with how to execute a skill in terms of work, is how do you evaluate what it is that you're doing and make changes and kind of get your ego out of it and, look at it objectively and in a scientific way and learn from it and build a plan from there.
Even just calling it the Center for Preventive Medicine and not calling it the gym, I mean, that kind of sets up, there's so much more to this than just physical training.
But what I learned, and to me, that is my greatest attribute, it has nothing to do with, I have big arms or exceptional genetic potential in this, was how to think and how to stay focused.
Right.
So, and again, continue to be cultivated, was fortunate enough to have positive influences in my life. I had tons of adversity during this path, but these positive influences were so meaningful. And I would say my other very positive influence that contributed to nurture was actually Mark Rippetoe from Starting Strength.
Rip.
Yep.
I've never met you, Rip, but I've heard a lot about you.
Maybe he'll watch this.
Maybe.
So I got fairly severely injured during my CrossFit years.
Okay.
And I mean, we have talked about this before, but I had sustained an injury that I had believed was the end of my athletic career.
It was a thoracic spine injury.
Yep, cervical thoracic injury, and I thought, like, that's it, I am done, absolutely done. And it was just devastating. I'm like, this part of my life is over. And it was my early 30s at the time. And interestingly enough, my greatest athletic accomplishments have come post that injury. So after having this injury with CrossFit, and I was already familiar, with Mark Rippetoe prior to that, but I went out to Texas and did some training with him, and he was coaching me. And at the time, we were going down the path of Olympic weightlifting.
Okay.
Ended up that was very difficult to coach from afar and doing more powerlifting, but he really, really taught me how to lift weights correctly, how to move correctly, which is crazy that I'm saying that because I've been lifting weights my entire life. I've been a fitness professional. My entire career had been as a fitness professional.
Right.
But to learn why you're doing things the way you are, a scientific reason, like, we squat this way, this is how we squat this way, and I relearned.
We look down, by the way.
We do. I relearned all of my movements, which was challenging for me because it also meant weight off the bar.
Yeah. Oh, and enter the ego.
So I had been like, I've deadlifted this amount. Well, you rounded your back.
Right.
So you really didn't. So relearning that and getting rid of my ego and relearning how to lift weights correctly was probably, I think, the greatest gift for me in terms of long-term, like, physical health and longevity, was not that I had poor form necessarily before.
Right. But it wasn't as good.
Correct.
And with the better form, it enabled you to go further than you would have had you kept doing what you had been doing.
And I think what sometimes people miss is something like lifting weights, things that seem very, very basic, are actually a learned skill. It is not just obvious at things, like, you can't just say squat. Like, there needs to be a model of what the squat should look like.
Points of performance.
And you should be able to tell somebody why they are squatting that way and not say, well, the strongest people in the world do it, so that's how you should do it.
Right.
So I think those influences for me, I would say, in a very long-winded answer to this question, is I believe for me, it is mostly nurture. And I was fortunate enough to meet people along the way in my life that helped me with that. But not everybody gets that.
No.
I have so many clients.
Not everybody gets to meet the author of Starting Strength and train with him.
Right.
It's Rip, by the way.
And I mean, for instance, like, you had a very, very different experience.
I did. Do you want me to?
You could give.
No, you asked me a question. Let's flip the script here real quick.
Yes.
Ask me a question.
Do you feel like, so you came to me
broken
and had not really lifted weights
ever.
And
I'd never been trained to lift weights. I mean, I had moved weights before, but I had never really been trained for it. My focus had been endurance. I ran marathons, triathlons. I really enjoyed the longer races. I did Ironman Coeur d'Alene in 2006. I'd done a couple of half Ironmen. But I had just been doing it, to train for an Ironman. I mean, there's 3 disciplines: you swim, you bike, you run, period. Not so much, but that mentality is what led me to fact that I was broken when I met you. I mean, I was a whole bowl of wrong at that
So
point.
you had never lifted weights until
No.
you were 47 or 48 years old,
Yeah,
roughly
in that time frame.
So you did not have any of the nurture for
None.
that.
None.
So you didn't start lifting weights until you're 47 years old.
Yeah, whenever it was that I started, yeah, I think it was 48, but whenever. I don't want to do math in public. But I had not been trained to do it. And when I was the endurance athlete before, it was all uncoached. There were no influences. You know, I just went out and did what I thought. And I thought that in order for it to be a good workout, you had to feel the workout. So the pain that I was feeling was like, well, that must mean that I was doing something right.
You started resistance training or some type, like, I mean, again, we're going to call my gymnastics the start of resistance training. You
Right.
started kind of resistance training 45 years later in life than I did.
Correct.
But look at what you have accomplished in the last 6 years.
It's fairly astounding. I don't want to say ridiculous. It's fairly astounding. I am nowhere near in the same league or as competitive as Gillian. Never will be. And even though, you know, our weights may not be that far off when we're working out together, I weigh, well, this morning I was 212.8 pounds and you were 138 something. So, I mean, there's a huge body weight difference. But what really is the big difference isn't so much how much weight I can move or how much I deadlifted or anything like that. It's that I can move without pain now. And that has reopened so many doors that I thought had just been closed for the rest of my life.
I think the point that we are making with this is, yes, I had a leg up that put me in an exceptional position of a combination of definitely some nature and some nurture.
Right.
And not everybody is that fortunate.
Correct.
But
But
it does not mean that there is not still a tremendous amount of room to grow for everybody.
right.
The point being that it is never too late to start. And just to say, you know, I'm not good at this. The truth is, you don't know if you
Right.
are or if you're not. Like, I had sort of said, well, going back to the nature and nurture, I had thought to myself, you know, my genetics are for an exceptionally well-developed upper body. My legs are never going to develop. That's just nature for me. That's just who I am. I'm going to have skinny little legs and a huge upper body. And what I have realized in the last 4 months of prep is even after, for me, 45 years of training, that even I could still train my body as that of an already developed athlete. Usually when someone's new to it, they get big results and big gains. And the longer you've been at something, you're fighting for every little hair.
Right.
And the idea that I could still make those changes when I'm at a point where I am fighting for every little is just, it's mind-blowing to me.
Okay. So we're at 23 minutes right now. What would you say, as we close this out, what advice would you give to somebody who feels like they just didn't get the nature part, but they're curious and they want to start somewhere?
I think first is to stop feeling bad about what it is that they missed and not to be hung up on, because so often I have somebody say to me, oh, I wish I would have started 10 years ago. I wish I would have started 20 years ago. Start now.
And be that person that 10 years from now is thankful that you started 10 years ago.
And not to compare. You should compare to
huge.
yourself. Where am I starting from and where could I get to? Not to say, well, this other person is the same body weight and same height and lifts this. It's compare only against yourself and start and think about how much of what you're saying is just an excuse, is to get rid of the excuses.
Right.
It is never too late in life to get results and to make gains.
And people have asked, what's the best workout program? And Gillian has taught me the best workout program is the workout that's going to get you back working out.
Yeah.
So do what you love and find somebody who can help you do it well. All right, anything else you want to throw in?
Once again, I want to thank everybody for staying with us through all of this. We are enjoying making these videos. Hopefully you're enjoying watching the videos.
Exactly.
Most of them go on about 10 minutes longer than we planned, so we're going to wrap it up on that note.
All right, and as always, please do not forget
wait.
to like and share. Hang on. like and share the video. We'll give you the gratuitous Lucy and Hank shot here in a second. Like and share this video if anything about it spoke to you, if you think it might help somebody else, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so that you can get notifications of whenever the new stuff comes out. And I'm going to turn the camera over to you to do the dog shot because you know how to do this.
Lucy walked away.
All right.
Lucy, come
here,
here.
Luce.
Come here.
Come here. Come here. I know you want to go outside.
Let's grab her.
Go get mommy.
Let's grab Luce.
Oh. Say hi, Lucy. All right. Thanks, everybody. And you get to turn the camera off this week.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.